So welcome, Sandra and James. James, you are a trained medical doctor, and you have founded an organization worldwide that is working against genocide. Can you tell us a little bit about how you went from being a doctor to your work that you're doing today?
Yes, it started when I was a medical student. I happened to be with my brother, Stephen, in Israel, which gives us pause for thought today. But we weren't a Jewish family, grew up in the countryside, actually in a mining village originally in Nottinghamshire in the Midlands of England. And visiting Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum, blew us away. We came back, met with Holocaust survivors, and thought it was just unbelievable that the British education system never taught about the mass murder of millions of Jews. So our family built what has become now the National Holocaust Museum. It was there as a warning for history, but we hadn't even built the centre when genocide in Rwanda happened, and in Bosnia, Srebrenica. A few years later, I volunteered as a medical doctor with the International Medical Corps during ethnic cleansing in Kosovo. That was what led me to establish the Aegis Trust, to identify when there were warning signs. Is it possible to have early interventions? A few years later, the government of Rwanda invited us to help develop the genocide memorials in Rwanda. We were very cautious about that, went with a lot of humility because we were bystanders to the genocide, but were compelled, largely because there were still women who'd been raped in the genocide, dying of HIV/AIDS, and the debate was happening whether or not there should be antiretrovirals provided for them. And it was shocking that while we had failed the international community to prevent a preventable genocide, we should continue with this. So we were involved, we helped to establish the Kigali Genocide Memorial, but always with the mission that a space would be created there to think about what kind of memory, what kind of education could help to unite rather than polarize future generations. It was too early at the time to have those conversations, but the space was there. We continued to have a conversation with survivors and with the government, and that's how we ended up.
Thank you, James. I'm going to turn to you now, Sandra. You are a survivor of the genocide against the Tutsi. Can you share with us a little bit your personal journey and where reconciliation fits in?
Sure, thank you, Sarah. My personal journey is one of a genocide survivor I've just shared, and it means a lot to have the opportunity of sharing my experience with the audience today. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I was 13 years old when I survived the genocide against the Tutsi, and growing up, I have always had in mind, I have always wanted to understand why. How can one put aside their humanity and get to the point of killing as horribly as they do during a genocide? So I think that my reconciliation journey, coming back to your question, is much aligned with my work as a peace builder. By reconciliation, I understand not only reconciliation with the people that wronged me, but also reconciliation with my own history as I move forward. So I joined Aegis Trust as a research fellow, trying to answer to my questions, the why, the how, and expanding my experience to more project management occupations later on. I worked in peace education, and that brought me to actually facilitating others to navigate their own wounds. And this definitely changed my way of living my survivorship, because it reshaped not only my understanding of the genocide itself, its history, the ideology, how it can be built, but also how the communities deal with consequences. So it helped me to unpack my own wounds, actually, having that knowledge and that understanding, having access to that knowledge and that understanding. And it helped me also to go beyond myself and use my personal experiences and help others, including the very ones that wronged me, as I was saying previously. So to me, reconciliation in the end also, and it's an important aspect that I wouldn't miss in describing my journey, reconciliation passes also by forgiveness. And, we have to recognize that it's a complex concept that I continue to engage with until now, personally. I'm not yet at the end of the journey in terms of forgiveness, but what being a peace builder brought to me also as a survivor is to understand that it taught me that I can be not entirely yet done with forgiveness, but I can live peacefully whenever milestone I'm at on the forgiveness journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. The Aegis Trust manages the Kigali Genocide Memorial, and inside the memorial, there's a section of it that pays witness not only to what happened in Rwanda, but also what has happened elsewhere in the world and other genocides. Can you tell us a little bit about the rationale of doing that?
Yeah, sure. So educating about genocides in general come back to reminding two people, so the visitors of the Kigali Genocide Memorial, for instance, that, we remind people about our shared humanity. And it is what really is intended to be done at the Kigali Genocide Memorial by presenting or sharing experiences with other genocides. So it's not about emphasizing on the inherited guilt or shame or, the very things that Dr. Conrad just shared that can be felt by the perpetrators, but it's really about reminding that horror is in the human nature, and invite all of us to reflect around that and invite all of us to take responsibility in preventing, because it's not really, it's really showing that it can happen everywhere. So even though every genocide has its own realities, we have to recognize that, but the genocide against the Tutsi must be understood in the perspective of that global perspective, and its education must incorporate experiences from elsewhere. So we pay witness to other genocides in the Kigali Genocide Memorial to remind our visitors of our shared humanity and common responsibility in building sustainable peace. So whatever experience, whatever background we are coming from, this is really to remind everybody that this is our shared responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. James, today we've heard a lot about the role of education in building peace and also the work of Aegis Trust too in education. In light of everything that's going on today in the world, what would your message of leadership for peace be?
One of the reasons I'm here today is because when I was just graduated as a medical doctor, I learned that half of doctors in Germany in the 1930s joined the Nazi Physicians League, and it occurred to me that I'm no better or worse than anyone else. If I'd been born at that time, it could, 50-50 chance that I could have been involved in that machinery that was contributing towards genocide. And I think when we look around the world today, we should be mindful that it's easier to hate than to build peace, because hate doesn't involve sacrificing and compromising. It's easier to make a case for war because conflict is driven by fear, and fear is the currency of much media and of populist leaders. And so we need to identify the leaders, leaders in communities proximate, if I may use Humanity United's term, proximate to where conflict is, because they often have the solutions, and for them, peace is a choice, but it's a tough choice. And many leaders, as we're hearing from Sandra, that they have their own traumas. And they have to face those traumas day after day in their peace-building work. And that's one of the reasons why We need to get behind them, we need to encourage them, because they're assets that the world needs now more than ever before. It's the reason why Aegis Trust is planning a sister institute to the Kigali Genocide Memorial in Rwanda, which will be a peace institute there to encourage and to resource and to support those peacemakers and those peace builders, and to help to share experiences among those communities that are building resilience against atrocities, so that when the political and economic shocks occur, we can withstand greater together. And it's a place to bring people together and to share, because when we are standing alone in peacemaking and peace building, we're often like flowers that are battered in a storm. But together, we can use the rains to grow into a forest that can withstand a hurricane and shelter all those that live within it.
Thank you, James. Sandra, may I ask you what your message for peace would be in terms of leadership today?
Yeah, my message for peace is really that building peace is a shared responsibility between all of us. But my last one will really be in line with what Dr. James just shared in his concluding about saying that peace builders, all of us, we need to pay attention to us, to remember to check ourselves regularly and to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves as well. As we help others, let's check on ourselves and don't forget ourselves.
Great. Thank you so much, James and Sandra, for everything that you do. Thank you.